interactive session with experts from industry to get their insight on the subject, so that every one of us who in academics see things differently, we get the right idea from the industry. So this gives me immense pleasure to introduce our panel. This is Sumit Taneja. Thank you, Sumit, coming over here. He's a ISB Hyderabad graduate, and currently he's the CEO of Sports Cube Foundation. Prior to this, he was in Samsung, and he was with Lilliput as well. So we wanted to hear from him on the aspect of marketing and luxury. So thank you, Sumit, coming over. Now we have Pallavi, very known name in jewelry industry, everyone knows. So we also know her. So, Pallavi, earlier to her own venture, she was working with Titan for 10 years, and she started working independently, and she's doing very well, as we know. And it's very known name in industry with regard to jewels. So Pallavi would like to hear how jewelry and fashion and luxury is going on. Thank you for coming over. Neerja, the leather expert, as I would call. She has been associated with him for quite some time. She was teaching with us. Currently, she with the Palikan Group. And then, prior to this, she was with H&M, their luxury brand called COS. And prior to that, she was with Dunhill. So we wanted to understand how internationally design and development is happening, and how you see India from other side of the world. So we would like to hear how luxury and fashion and these kind of things works in the scenario. And interestingly, we want to hear the perspective how we see luxury and fashion, and how the other part of the world see the luxury. Thank you for coming over here. Nishta, the youngest participant, sorry,
yes.
In the forum. Nishta is she working with WGSN. She's a manager there. She has a 10 years experience, and I believe she's working with more than 7 years with this fashion industry. We wanted to have you to understand how this forecasting translated into real life, and how this is going to affect as the study goes. And we have Deepika Deepti, the star from my side. She's the CMO and CEO of Bhane. Prior to that, she was working with Adidas, and she has been wonderfully doing her work over the period of time. Now she looks apparel brand. So we wanted to hear from how apparel and accessories also going together in future. So thank you so much for coming over here. I must acknowledge your humility to just confirming to be on the webinar just over the phone call. Thank you so much for coming over. Now I invite Shija. She's the Center Coordinator of FNLA Department in New Delhi to take this proceeding forward. Thank you so much. Shija.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Sanjeev. Good evening, all. I'm Shiza. I'm the Center Coordinator of FNLA Department, New Delhi. In conversation with our panelists, along with my co-faculty members of the department, Professor Dr. Sanjeev, Professor Dr. Preetha Hussain, and Mr. K. Morgan. The pandemic has hugely impacted the luxury fashion industry. Right at the beginning of global lockdown, the luxury industry began to feel the weight of the pandemic's profound effects. Brands that were producing perfumes, scarves, and handbags are now making hand sanitizers and masks. Luxury brands like Ralph Lauren and Louis Vuitton are making hospital gowns to be donated to the frontline medical workers in an effort to keep the momentum going, even as the coronavirus handles the global luxury business. Coronavirus is literally on its way to corrode the luxury industry, or rather has already done so. We are witnessing a seismic transformation within the industry, from transforming business models to repurposing of fashion products, new marketing strategies, transforming consumer wardrobes, changing role of technology. Well, post-lockdown, experiential luxury is taking a backseat. And now I would like to invite our first panelist, Ms. Deepika Deepti, who is the CEO of Bhane, to share an insight into transforming luxury industry. Deepika, how do you see the evolution and transformation of luxury sector post-COVID in the new normal world? What are the changes exactly that are coming and we will see in the new normal?
See, like you said, the world is experiencing one of the most devastating crises since the World War. It's the Second World War, right? The period is tough. And more importantly, what will define the future is the employment trends that shall influence some consumer confidence. The luxury sector will eventually bounce back, but the market would have changed, right? And what we need to do is we need to prepare ourselves. We have to be extremely agile. We need to focus on short-term strategies at this point of time, and be flexible in understanding what the consumer is looking for, prioritizing that. So while we used to work on literally 5-year plans or fashion cycles which were a year in advance, we need to really break that down, and instead of looking at seasons, start looking at quarter or monthly drops, have a shorter lead time of production so that your buy is more controlled. And the most important thing are two: sustainability and digitalization. So retail and fashion or luxury, the world has been changing. Digitalization has been the center of focus for every business as well as retail. There are RFID adapters experience. Even at stores, there's a store in London for Burberry, which has that kind of an experience. Now, the thing is, what consumers really looking forward is having that kind of an understanding of the product, but digitally, and getting that delivered. There is still, in the luxury segment, there is still people have the money to spend, but it's the experience that needs to reach out to them. It's the story that needs to reach out to them. Also, of course, the pandemic, all of us got in thinking about, what we've done to the world, our surrounding. And I think embracing that for every brand is the necessity today, be it be luxury or be it be, a really homegrown startup. So sustainability has to be the center of your product, of your creation, and execution has to be adapted by digitalization.
Okay. So, Deepika, as you said, sustainability is at the center stage. We do have a more conscious consumer who's more aware of this fact. So, how do you expect the consumer wardrobe to be changing and building up in this new post-COVID scenario?
See, right from knowing the source of your product is becoming actually very normal. So knowing where your product is coming from, the quality of the product, how it's been cultivated, the crop has been cultivated, people are getting onto those details. The consumer is concerned about that. That's going to reflect. The other thing that I have started noticing is one is the provenance. Culturally relevant products. So India went high on vocal for local, but it's also the R of the need, right? So you have to adapt to that. So those are the changes. Then a lot of people, in fact, some of the designers are really talking about hand-down products, hand-down luxury products, or hand-down products itself, and reloving, reigniting your products. So a lot of that shall happen. The transactions are going to be limited. If people were, buying 10 dresses or 10 products, and they were around, they were driven by social gatherings or red carpet, that's not going to happen. But what's going to really happen is products that people will feel more valued, rich wearing them. Rich as in not flashy rich anymore, rich to yourself, rich within. So that's a significant change that I believe people will have in the wardrobes going forward.
All right, that's a really wonderful insight, Deepika. I now move on to Pallavi Pole. who is a high fashion and couture jewelry designer. Pallavi, please tell us what transformations are expected in the luxury jewelry sector in India, particularly. Because if we talk of India, jewelry is a huge share of luxury market. Hello. Hello.
Unmute, right.
Yeah, Pallavi.
So first of all, thank you for having me, at this seminar and, to talk in the webinar. It's really special for me to be here because, NIFT didn't just teach us how to design in terms of skill building, but what it really taught us was to question the problems in design and to analyze them. And I think that was a very important skill, and that comes in handy even now. So overall, I think we're going through a scenario where things are, we've never had something like this before. So there are no parallels really. It feels like a social experiment. But it holds in it, there is change that, we are seeing change in habits, a new normal. So in that case, change in itself brings about the seed of innovation. And innovation is really important to any business. When you go out to any trade show or even to the mall when you're shopping, we all see that, we're all craving that new iPhone, that new phone, the new technology. Creativity is always a big seller. So even in a time like this, I think creativity is always going to be on an all-time high. In fact, I'm hearing people talk that design is going to solve many problems. It's going to be the next tool to solve the problems. So in jewelry, I see a big shift. A lot of customers are coming to me asking, young couples who would earlier come and say, could we buy a natural diamond? But today they're asking, is the carbon footprint of a lab-grown diamond lesser? So it is a very, a difficult debate. What is really the carbon footprint? What is greener? What is more sustainable? But at the same time, it is something that people are talking about. The customer is thinking about the fact that, is this product sustainable really? In the sense, when you're talking of sustainability, you're talking of not just what is the packaging, what goes behind it, what happens once you've used that product, how do you dispose it off? Is it harming anybody in the value chain at all? Is it good for the craftsman? So all of that is being considered and people are thinking about it, which is really important. The second thing, in fact, in this particular, while we are talking about this, there is a designer who's done, a beautiful seating with tennis balls. Now, tennis balls are made in excess, sometimes at the factory. So he's actually used those tennis balls in seatings, which is quite fascinating. So here you're using it intelligently. The other thing in jewelry that is happening is that people do want products in jewelry which have more to do, which can offer more than just a piece of jewelry. I recently designed a collection called the Wear Your Prayer. It's really tiny. It's little prayer eggs in gold, and they are in all, they're prayers in all religions, but they are all exactly the same size, and they use traditional Indian filigree and handwork to make them. And we had collaborations from various companies wanting to tie up with us in India and abroad. So yes, the product brings in hope. It brings in a sense of its great craftsmanship. It uses the best of Indian crafts. And it's not just a piece of jewelry. So when you're wearing it, it gives you strength.
Mm-hmm.
And also I think craftsmanship itself, to bring in India alive through your experiences, sharing that knowledge that we have, the Indianness through your own experience, our, cultural, our culture, our, to share all of that, our glorious historical past, to share it through your product for people in the country and people outside the country is a very important thing at the moment. And everybody is worried about keeping our crafts alive. So whether it's Meenakari or it's Bidri, all of those crafts and the craftsmen, there is a lot of emotional connect that customers have, not just the designers. So I think there's scope in the jewelry industry, in the jewelry accessories, to come up with new accessories in jewelry that would really be needed in the future. Technology, blending technology, can there be things that can help you more? So there is a whole space of innovation right there.
Great, Pallavi. Innovation and craftsmanship. We should remember these two things for the coming post-COVID period. Pallavi, I have a student question for you. Because jewelry takes or is a major part of the weddings in India, the luxury weddings and the lesser priced weddings also. Do you think the culture of intimate weddings now, because there is social distancing, people are not meeting, invitees are limited, do you think the intimate wedding means decline in the demand for luxury wedding market?
So I would like to answer it this way, that people are still going to, it's like fashion. There was this lovely saying by Coco Chanel where she said that, I think it's, fashion is not something that exists in dresses only. Fashion is in the sky, in the street. It has to do with ideas, the way we live, what is happening. So the important thing here is that everything will continue, but we will think of it in a different way. We will address this in a slightly different way. For example, jewelry might need to become more modular. Like another example was that it needs to have more than what it generally does. So for example, if a piece of jewelry is beautiful, it also gives you hope in some way. So yes, I mean, it's also like in a wedding necklace, possibly there could be a healing stone that could be used, which could later be just used as a pendant. So the way we look at the wedding jewelry will change, but I think the market, people are so in love with the craftsmanship. They're feeling they want to keep their craft alive, and I see this day in and day out when I meet customers. So yes, it will change, but it is going to be it will change a little bit, but overall I think the way we address it will change, not really the market.
Pallavi, I have a small question.
Yes, sir.
You anyway have been working with the artisan and jewelry makers for years.
Yeah.
Now post COVID, I think our approach towards all this has changed. We become more empathetic towards human being now. Do you think your interaction with artisan is going to change in some manner? It is going to benefit them more?
I actually love working with the craftsmen, and that experience of just going through the learning of years and there is actually really lovely. And I hope, sir, that it never changes. I interact almost every day with them, even now, but the factories are working 3 days a week. There is a whole shift in the sentiment of the craftsmen who also want to go back to their hometowns, and somewhere they're feeling, so there is a lot of strength exchange that we have at all points, where the communication, actually, you're right, has become a lot stronger. And they are, I mean, one has to empathize, understand exactly what the person is feeling for them to bring out the best. Because even when I design a product, I notice, or anybody in my team designs a product, it is the craftsman who really brings it alive. The colors, I mean, their exploration is fantastic on the product. I mean, I feel like if a craftsman did not give in their whole heart into the product would really lose out. So yes, in that context, you're absolutely right. The bond is actually much stronger. The factories may have to get redesigned in the future to accommodate for this.
Thank you, Pallavi, for sharing this important observation. We certainly have to be in connect with our craftsmen because that is going to be the key post-COVID in the jewelry sector. Over
Is Deepti is still around or she left? Uh, she's around, Deepti?
Yeah, of course.
Deepti, I have a small question. Sorry, because you had to leave. So before you leave, I
No,
must ask
please,
this question.
please.
See, we are talking about, loss of indulgence and wellness is going to be in future post COVID. So do you think, are you going to have a different product category which especially talks about wellness and probably, more of personal products? Do you think, are you going to introduce something in that domain?
Not really, but what we are looking at is actually collaborating with people who are doing different categories. Because from a retail standpoint, instead of just looking at standing alone in a different way, if you want to put it like that, let's stand together. That's the idea. Let that be
As
a
a more of collaborative effort.
yeah. Let Dhane be a one place where people can find multiple products for their requirements. So we actually just collaborated with these are very high. We went and we collaborated with somebody who does make high-end masks, and these masks are being imported from Canada. They've got multiple filters, etc. So, I mean, it's not exactly an apparel wellness category, or for say if tomorrow you want to do something around a yoga apparel range, no. But yeah, I mean, time to time, you look at collaborating people, bringing in the right proposition. Did I answer your question?
So is there any change in your market? Yeah, that's okay. What I'm asking, is there any change in marketing approach which you have been, taking post-COVID?
Yes, of course, definitely. One, lowering down your marketing spends. So we were, Mane is a culture-first brand where you actually you work with people with different creative mindsets to kind of in a very physical space. So one thing is that is gone is a lot of events that are gone, but we're trying to now reinvent that wheel. How is it that we can engage with different set of creative people in a more digital space and still communicate and engage with our consumers? Then events are gone. A lot of influencer marketing is gone. People are looking for a lot of value proposition. So that's there. And like I said, digital marketing is really high right now. I mean, just from a visibility standpoint, people are investing in digital marketing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deepika,
Thank you so
for
much. Thank you.
that insight.
Pleasure.
Because you have to leave, I would just request you to please give advise some words of wisdom to our students, particularly the graduating batch this year.
One thing, I think you guys are blessed to learn, in one of the best places. Whatever, I mean, I was talking to Sanjeev sir a few days back, and I was telling him the quotes that I learned and I earned from my faculty back there has actually helped me shape my career. Not just those were probably specific to a lot of projects or curriculum, but they've actually helped me shape up my career and go from design, from accessories to apparel, change categories, be in marketing, try a lot of new things. So what I learned is, adapt. That's what I like, Pallavi said, this is what design teaches us to do, to find solutions to problems. Then be very agile, don't be fixated. That's the need of the hour. And definitely, if you want things to stay as they are, things will have to change. So adapt to that.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you. So
thanks for having me there.
Thank you so much for joining. We have to say goodbye to Deepika.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
We will continue with our discussion. Over to you, Neerja now. Neerja, you have a career in the luxury leather sector. So, how do you see the pandemic impacting this sector and the change in the consumer behavior, particularly?
I mean, I can say from here in Europe, there is a change in material innovation is a very big part of it going forward. And we've been speaking about sustainability. So as we know, leather is, people say it's not really sustainable. So we're looking for newer solutions like vegan leathers, and there are fibers being made out of pineapple, which are being made into leather. There's banana fiber. There's a lot of material innovation going on in that regard. But then there is, with after COVID-19, there's another thing that we're looking for is, especially for bags, people are talking about hygiene, which is an important part of the whole situation we are in. We are sourcing materials that are antimicrobial. So that's a big trend now. Like suddenly, like I remember a few months ago, we had just started looking, there were a couple of 1 or 2 suppliers doing it. Now everyone is exploring that area. All the brands want to make materials that are antimicrobial and having, for example, compartments for sanitizers. You would have heard that Louis Vuitton is doing pouches or pockets for sanitizers and masks. And of course, they were doing masks as well. But this is one area of change that we're looking into in terms of design. And I also think there's a lot of people are moving from so-called bling look of luxury market. For example, Gucci G, which was very vibrant and people paid a lot of money for that. The consumers looking, especially after this turmoil that we've all gone through, people are looking for something more discreet. So labels like Bottega, which are known for their heritage, craftsmanship, their Italian sense of finesse, is what people are after now going forward. Another very important thing that's coming through is the giving back element, giving back to the society. So as we're speaking about Louis Vuitton making masks, or they're turning their perfume factory into a sanitizer making unit, and providing this to the French healthcare. Similarly, Burberry making masks for NHS here in the UK. That's got a lot to do with what these big brands are, their corporate social responsibility, what they're doing for the society going forward. But for example, there's another good example of Bulgari, which is making very high-end state-of-art microscopes for hospitals in Rome. And I think people are, this meaningful support, people are going to remember that. They might not be customers right now, but people are definitely going to remember that in future. So lots of brands are investing in that. A very important aspect here is also renewed local production. I think the dependency on Far East is reducing. People are looking for more local manufacturers. And I think it's a great opportunity here for India. Because we've got so many clients who are looking for manufacturing opportunities or factories, high-end factories in India that can deliver the same product. I think especially in leather goods, because India is known after Italy, India is known for its craftsmanship in leather and the tanneries that we've got back there. So this is another thing. And then as we've been speaking about a digital platform, that's another area of innovation that we're looking at. Certain brands like, I don't know if you know of Sephora, the French cosmetic brand. So they've got something called augmented reality, which is called AR. It's like a 3D platform on their website where customers can take a photograph and put it on there and apply different shades of makeups to see what suits them. Similarly, some brands are also working on, watch brands are working on holograms that you can reflect on your wrist from the online platform, giving the same experience of being in their store. That's another area that people are looking into. And as we know, the biannual fashion shows might become a thing of the past. Most brands are looking into only having one season, one entire annual season, one collection, instead of having separate collections all throughout, keeping ecology and sustainability in mind. And I also think besides the too frantic pace of collection, releases might damage luxury goods, luxury houses by making them look cheap and like fast fashion. So I think this approach is going to change, where people want long-lasting clothes with good detailing, with good design, and good value for money. This is where I see this kind of change happening here in the luxury sector. And I think, to be honest, luxury is something that's driven by aspiration, dreams, it's about people, it's about their dreams, it's about what, sorry, I've got it written somewhere, I just forgot. Yeah, it's about what they aspire in their life. So I think this is our human nature. So eventually we will bounce back to this. A very good example is recently when the Hermes store opened in Guangzhou, China. The very first day of opening, they made a sale of $2.6 million. So that really shows that people have the appetite for this. And so was Tesla, the car Tesla. They made sales that they've never anticipated in their whole year in one day. So I think that's where it's going.
Nisha, I have a small question from to you. See, what I am reading various reports, it says this pandemic affected economically only to middle class and lower middle class per se.
Yeah.
So when we talk about luxury, they are not the really buyer of it.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Really, it is going to this pandemic really going to affect the luxury market? I doubt.
No, it's not. No, it's not. That's what, because I think it's very, like I said, it's something very dreamy and aspirational, and that's our human nature. We eventually people will start. They want to buy things that are aspirational, emotional. They're not. It's not something driven with money so much. So it will bounce back. You might see this in a couple of, like, I would say 6 to 8 months run, but eventually in the coming year you would see it will bounce back.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, Neerja, which brings me to a question that when the luxury stores reopened in China, there was a lot of revenge buying that was seen. So, do you think that trend is going to be global, or is it just limited to the China? Like,
no, I think it's going to be global. It's going to be global, definitely.
What is your view, and what is the reason for that?
Because I think China is considered as the main hub of luxury in like last few years, but Europe is also a big consumer for luxury goods. And I think because Chinese people will stop traveling, I mean, because of travel restrictions that we have as of now, there are not many travelers coming to Europe. But I think Europeans themselves have a big demand for luxury goods herein. That's what I think. So I think it's not, definitely we've seen that trend in China, but I feel when stores open here, for example, in Switzerland, when they open stores, the same trend was seen in the watch showrooms there.
Hi, Neerja, I have a little question. So do you think that, as you talked about dreams and aspirations, yes, I understand the luxury sector will be less affected than the other sectors. But the whole aspect of delayed production lines, less of travel buying, people becoming more conscious about spending their money. So do you think it'll have a long-term effect on the industry?
I think delayed production is something that's a short-term thing we are looking at, couple of months. But I think eventually the supply chain will start moving. So, and also like I said, people are looking at, companies are looking at more local production. That's one reason why they're looking at manufacturers in their own home country. So after what they've seen because of China closing down or other countries, the shipping issues that they've had. So I think that's going to be quite short term, but in the long term, things will pick up, and I think these companies will find their own ways to produce things and to supply. Yeah.
You have been, Neerja, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello? Yeah, Nisha, I wanted to hear from you. You have been working with the leather as a material for quite some
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So how it is when you talk about luxury product in leather differ from any other product category, because it is not so high value in terms of material. So how you create a story around it to become a to have a better product in the market. So do you have any strategy in this area?
Sorry, would you repeat that question, sir? Okay, sorry.
So what I'm saying is that you have been working in leather for quite some
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So since material has a low value in terms of cost of it, so do you think you have to package it very differently so it create that kind of high value, in the luxury segment?
I
So
think
I want to understand it. I want to understand your strategy for that.
Okay, so I think with leather, it's not perceived as low cost. Of course, if you're comparing with jewelry, then yes, with like diamonds and stuff, yes, but it is considered to be fairly expensive material in people's mind. I think, but the story is a lot about heritage, craftsmanship, and I think that's why Italy has been so, for all these years, Italy has been so famous for doing this, for their finesse, for their story, that 100 years of history of a company doing leather goods. I think that's what it is. But I don't see that perception in terms of people. Maybe because I've been dealing with leather and I absolutely love leather, so I wouldn't say that. But there are cheaper materials out there, like there is imitated leather, but leather is still considered expensive.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nisha, that is indeed a very important insight and observation. I will now move on to the conversation with Nishtha, who is associated with WGSN South Asia. Nishtha, hi.
Shiva. Thank you.
Nishtha, the very first question, like, how are the trends changing post-COVID?
Well, definitely trends are changing because of the consumer. There are different things that are the key drivers from the consumer end, which are changing the design. So I would first like to talk about how, what are the things that are changing in terms of consumers' demand. Something like protection, I mean, COVID-19 has driven a significant evolution in terms of how consumer believes and its attitude. So with this, it has accelerated number of trends that is going to be there. First, of course, there is uncertainty of future. There is fear, there is anxiety. I mean, all of this is definitely driving a change of what we need. So protection is something that we are definitely looking for, whether it's in the form of material or it's in the form of shielding ourselves, sanitization, everything. Then we come to, working from home. So this culture has so much and so driven us that we look for comfort more. I mean, we want something that is handy, which is comfortable, which is something to do with loungewear or 2 mile wear is something, as a term that I would use. What you can wear comfortably at home, and even instantly if you want to shop around for groceries, you can wear that. Then the third thing I would, like to focus on functionality, something which is very important in terms of clothing. Of course, multi-purpose clothes that I can say. And the first and the foremost that I am saying in the last way is positivity. We are seeking for positivity because there is so much of negativity around. Hence, to keep ourselves busy, have a positive outlook, we are indulging ourselves into sometimes shopping luxury items, sometimes creating, craft, or maybe embracing little things like gardening, all of these things. So these are the driving factors that we are seeing here in terms of design priorities. Now, when I talk about, change in design, of course, it has to be minimal. It has to be something, the use of soft plush fabrics or the buzzword is the above the keyword dressing, which is a new term. So of course, we are all dressing up for the digital socializing, online socializing. Then of course, to make us feel good, that is another scenario. Also, the brands and manufacturers having so much of overstock, we need to think about how we're going to make use of that. So repairing the old stock, or reusing it, or upcycling it, at least, making it relevant to what the need is now. So that way is something we have to focus on. The third most important thing is, since we are digitalizing so much, and we are socializing so much on digital era, patterns and colors that can pop out or on digital cameras. So that's something we will be focusing as a design element. Then there's another thing, which is wellness. Focusing on thermoregulating materials, or something like antibacterial material, healing material. So this is something we are going to be focusing on as a important design priority. Then the last thing I would like to say is end of more, where we feel that it's a lot that we have created, and now we need to slow down, take a pause, reflect on what our brand values are, or design related values are, and then design with a practicality, more second life, having things like things having longevity, more than what we used to think before, utility wise and versatility wise. So all of this is something very important to look at now.
Certainly. As you have pointed out, protection, uncertainty, comfort, and functionality.
Yes.
And then healing materials. That is certainly a very important trend we will see, and the end of more. So very important insight this is, Nishtha. I would now like to ask Sumit Taneja to share insight into the marketing scenario. Sumit, you've been associated with the luxury marketing sector for a long time. So what marketing strategies for luxury products are going to be seen post-pandemic? Hello? Sumit, you need to unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. Is it fine now? I'm audible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I was about to say was that give me 5 to 10 minutes. Once I'm through with my presentation, I'm sure I'll be answering most of the question you people have, right? Now let's first understand the macroeconomics across globally, what's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have falling GDPs. The GDPs are contracting. We have huge fiscal deficits. You talk of major economies, you talk of emerging economies, it is across globe. You have increased government spendings, right? You have production and supply chain disruptions. You have geopolitical uncertainties. There is fear. The consumer sentiment is at all-time low. Willingness to spend money, all-time low. Let me make you understand the demand and the supply side dynamics. Supply side, Italy contributes close to 40% of the global luxury goods production as a center. Another 38% comes from China. That means 80% of your factory were temporarily shut down, right? And you understand how there was, and there's a complete disruption end to end. Now, when it comes to demand, 80% of the global luxury is consumed by China, Europe, America. Europe is contracting. They have fallen by 48% in terms of their consumption. From 30%, they have come down to 17% of the global pie. America has come down from 30% to 22%. China has risen from 2% to 35%. China is a big daddy. We have to, now the world is watching what China, when it starts. Now, imagine in 2019, take out that, I mean, it's a humongous figure. These guys grew by 90% in terms of their luxury consumption growth. Now I'll tell you what's happening. So, luxury market is projected to contract close to 20 to 40%. Please don't expect any buying. It would be 2020, 2022 end, or maybe early 2023. But that does not mean. Now, one of my colleagues was saying that, yes, Europe, what Bulgari is doing, you know what these companies are doing, and they are doing a fantastic job. The first job in this crisis is to protect the health and the safety of employees, their jobs, consumers, and business stakeholders. I cannot leave my capacity idle. So what I'll do is I'll start producing what is the need of the hour instead of what I was producing earlier. So it is as good as when you meet an accident. There are two types of action we take: immediate, then it is a medium and a long term. Now, what we should do? What should be our immediate actions as of now? The first priority, as I discussed, should be to for all entrepreneurs, big corporates, companies, for sure, is to protect health, safety of employees, consumers, and business stakeholders. Done. Review your inventories. Look what kind of inventories you have for 2020 and rethink on 2021 collection. Media spends, move from outdoors to digital marketing, because everything would be in times to come to your artificial intelligence, augmented reality, digital marketing, so on and so forth. Manage your cash. You have to be very, very clear, and this has to be managed because the inflows are not there. Whatever they are wafer thin, right? Today, the companies are not thinking of profits. They are just sustaining for this, whatever this period is. It can be for a year and a half, or 2 years. Demand forecasting, it is not that easy. Now, one of the colleagues was saying China opened and there was a big sale. Please understand, as rightly said, it is revenge spending. There's a pent-up demand within us. It opens and we spend. No, it will spike down. It's an initial spike. It has to come down, right? Unlock full potential of omni-channel retailing, reaching out to tier 1, tier 2, affluent, all these Henrys, millennials, and look at the trend. Even the baby boomers are following millennials these days, right? You need to plan your merchandise very effectively. As I told you, there would be revenge spending. Protect the top line. Go shift onto online sales and marketing, and hit there when you have to go digital. Where geographies where they have been hardest hit by pandemic. Engage and sell in new circumstances. Go tactical, like through virtual shopping sessions, direct messages to your top consumers. We need to break out from our silos. Keep evaluating your initiatives. It is on a runtime basis. It is not that we'll sit on a 15-day review. No. It is you complete your 12 days of work, review. 12 days of work, 12 hours of work, and review. Participation marketing in designs. And this is a beautiful concept, right? What you should do is, when you are engaging, because now you will be using digital platform, AI, AR in a big way, try to engage by user curated content. Tell them, this is our like design. Do you want to add value? Engage them in real-time scenarios. All the companies, all the entrepreneurs, whosoever is a starter or it's a big company, you need to really watch out for your operational expenses. Retail costs, other costs such as hiring, training, VM modules, and your prop updates, so on and so forth. Your capital expenditures. Now there are ATL, there are BTL activities, there are media investments. Stop that. You have to move to digital as soon as possible, AI and all that stuff, right? Now, the leaders, you have to transform the value proposition. You need to be more customer-centric, digital, agile, purposeful, and sustainable. When I say purposeful, it is if you don't have a purpose, because now sustainability has to be married with purpose. You have to de-risk your business model. You have to de-risk your top line. For an example, I'll take a very small example. Suppose I'm producing something in India. Maybe 70% of my sales are coming from North and 30% from South. No, I need to see why it is not coming from East or West. My dependency should not be on China. What happened? There was a complete disruption and we were waiting. All these automobiles guys, they had a big hit because they were waiting. The factories out there, they cannot. So you need to de-risk your model in terms of top line, in terms of your supply chain, so on and so forth. Now, this was a short-term and immediate strategy, what I talked about. Now I'll be talking about medium to long-term strategy to, you know, how to deal with the new normal for our, how do we shape up the business? How do we shape the future? So digital to be the focus, has to be the focus of your operating model. And it will become a norm. Develop competencies, resilience, and transformation. You will have leaders. Now there is a new, earlier you were hearing of chief operating officer, chief financial officer. Now you will see a new post coming in, chief transformational officer instead of a chief technical officer, right? So you need to really restructure the ecosystem in terms of how you work with your stakeholders, employees, so on and so forth. You will be there and you'll be reducing a lot of your carbon prints because now people have learned how to manage work from home, so on and so forth, right? They are learning. You have to be very, very cautious when it comes to merger and acquisitions. Lots of companies, they are bleeding. They were going out blindly and buying out companies. Now they did not have synergies because now they don't have synergy, they are going out of the business. Top retailers in America, across globe, in Europe, they are filing their bankruptcies. Shift in consumer sentiment and behavior. There would be a huge shift in their emotional quotient. So the communication has to be more of a heartlet in this time rather than a headlet. And we have to watch out. Digitize your supply chain end-to-end. Get into vertical integrations. Companies have one of who have never went into vertical integration, and this is happening from last 20 years. I'm audible, right?
Yeah.
So what I spoke of was immediate, medium to long term, what as entrepreneurs or what as company we should do. Any questions you guys have, please throw.
So Sumit, you have constantly pointed out that the businesses have to go digital. Now, particularly in terms of retail, because luxury products, they are sold in brick and mortar stores for a reason. They have a high touch and experiential product category. And it's all about experience of buying that luxury product. So what methods and what online models can be used in future to engage the customers, since things are going to go digital, we are going to see luxury online, particularly to the Indian market?
Brick and mortar is here to stay, right? Now, what do we do in next 2 years, next 3 years? And let me tell you one thing, the technology, if you've heard of the VUCA world, right? the technology will change the complete perceptions of the retailers in times to come. And thanks to COVID-19, right? Now, the consumer psychologically is undergoing not a financial loss, emotional loss, health loss, fear. Please understand. And now you will see all these technological companies coming forward in terms of their augmented reality. You will have a complete virtual shopping on the click of your mobile. They'll be touching you through that technology. They'll be engaging you day in and day out. On what? See, luxury selling is on. It's not like a mass selling, right? It's a very personalized selling, and these guys will be reaching out to them one-on-one. And so this is how the technology will change the entire landscape, how you were selling goods, how you were reaching out to the consumer, and how you were selling your product, right?
Wow.
So ensure, and we have to accept that artificial intelligence, augmented reality, through married with digital across platforms, is here to stay. And you will see a lot of budgets moving out of say called prints, OOH, TVCs. Gone are the days. It's all about digitalization, AI and AR.
Certainly. Does any faculty have a question?
I would love to answer. Please ask questions.
Okay, so Sumit, that is very, very important observation and insight that you've shared with us. We are going to see more digital selling in this area. And yes, augmented reality, as you are saying, is going to take the
Yeah, I just wanted to ask something. Yeah. Of course, what you're saying, digital reality is something which was happening before COVID itself, where the retailers were reducing their space in the malls or in the retail spaces, and also adding the digital platform as an offering along with it. So, as you said, brick and mortar is here to stay. But do you think there's going to be a huge loss, or there's going to be huge, drawback which is going to be there in terms of experiential marketing, in terms of the actual physical marketing, so to say, in terms of retail sales, in terms of visual merchandising, and so on and so forth, because this also affects the kind of professions and the kind of pathways that students will take in the future?
I'll answer this in a very simple manner. Remember, ever you thought that you will be like when you hire a cab, there won't be a driver? Imagine.
Yeah, definitely. There are driverless cars which are already in the horizon.
That's happening. See, what happens is, today we were used to going to a store, and that was our world. Going to a luxury store, experiencing feel, touch, all senses were involved. But post-COVID, and you know what? This is the mother of all. Where you had SARS, you had 2008-9 financial crisis, subprime crisis. This is the mother of all. You know what? This COVID is here to stay in the first place, and you never know whom it can touch or whom it can destroy. And entire the world is clueless. We are still searching for a vaccine. Now, in such a scenario, my life is valuable. Now, what these tech guys, all these techie guys will try to give you the same experience what you are doing there on the store. And let me tell you one thing: the beauty of buying luxury, 40% to 50% of luxury what you buy, you don't buy in your own mainland. You travel.
It's travel buying, of course.
You buy
in another country.
No, exactly. So if you look at China, 35%, 25%, 24%, the Chinese are buying it from Italy, because they were proud, made in Italy. It is coming from the home. That was the proud, right? Now China is provoking people, and there will be a lot of activities, and people will understand to bite from the homeland, bite from the mainland. And if I am, as a technical guy, as a techie, can give you the same experience, you will surely buy. Since we have not experienced that, so we are in a double whammy. What it would be, what it should be, right? Imagine today we are doing a webinar. There are 112 people. We are talking. We are used to it. Imagine doing a had you ever thought 2 months back that I'll do a webinar? No, we were not ready. Today
No.
we are.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I said it's not just the companies who'll have to rethink, even professional and educational institutes, because this is
Madam,
a
there's a
major
complete-
shock which has come into the ecosystem. And as Pallavi and
call it
Nishka said,
I won't call
wellness
it
is
a
something.
shock.
Sorry.
I won't call it a shock. Change is permanent. You keep moving, ma'am. Today, we'll be into a lot of problems, like you're talking of not nuclear weapons, you're talking of biological weapons. We don't know what is lying next to us, right? There's a complete geopolitical stress across world. Middle East, China is trying to take over India, Japan, complete Southeast Asia. So there's a complete, so what I'm trying to tell you is we will adapt, and humans are powerful, and that's why we are humans will adapt to all, whatever comes in our way, because we have to find a solution.
Yeah, Sumit, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sumit, tell me what will not change in post-COVID scenario?
What will not
change post-COVID scenario?
Sir, relationship, humility, humbleness.
If you talk about product and lifestyle.
See, Sanjeev, jokes apart, when you say what won't change post-COVID is, people, when it comes to FMCG, like basics, right? We will not stop eating, right? Maybe we'll stop going to the restaurants, right? But maybe we will not dine, but yes, we'll order. We'll start ordering food. Because when you have all these COVID certifications and all that stuff, right? So how the world changes is, till the time we have that fear of this pandemic, we will be distancing ourselves. And let me tell you one thing. Not many countries, I'm talking of big markets like America, Europe, they'll bounce very late as compared to Southeast Asia, India, and so on and so forth. So what see, now second thing I want to tell, what you said does not change. Today, maybe you have a phone. Now you will shift, your entire life will move around a smartphone. It has to. Because everything would be technology.
Okay, there's a couple of questions which is coming online. Sheila, if you can see them on the question and answer,
Yeah. So I will open the questions to the panelists. The first one is from Karthik Gupta, who is saying that jewelry comes under the leisure industry and is decreased by 15%. So what could be done in such a pandemic situation next time?
Pallavi would like to answer this.
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things that, in fact, for the students, one of the things that I would like to say is I feel that because everything is moving to technology, one of the things that is really good for the students at the moment is that this is a leveled playing field now. The larger companies will not have so much of an advantage because it's all going online and digital. Though yes, there are huge departments of innovation that they do have, but at the same time, a younger person coming up with a great innovation has a big opportunity right there. So I definitely feel that one of the things, the fears should go away. and especially so for a young design professional. Secondly, I think we are not really designing for ourselves only, whether it's in jewelry or not. We're not designing just for people, we are also designing for an environment. So things there are going to change. I'm going to use materials that are eco-friendly, that are sustainable. And this particular thing where we are going to be concerned about the environment will bring in a lot more collaborations. So in the jewelry industry, I do see a change, but I see people are still going to order. This whole continuity will remain as such. The orders might be more thought out. People have been using the internet to look at, they've been sort of searching and browsing the net to look at all the stuff that they want to buy. So there are more decided purchases, there are more thought out purchases. But saying that, engagements are still happening, weddings are still happening, people still they still have the desire. So and also gold is being looked at as a great investment at this point. It's one of those things that are easily liquidable. You can liquidify it very fast. So yes, so these are a couple of things. Even diamonds, people have been looking at them as investments as well. So yeah, if that answers the question.
Pallavi, again related to jewelry retail sector only, Anupriya is asking the panelists that jewelry retails are personalized and different. Just a second. Yeah, different from other products. So how do companies cope with losses? Because adding a digital platform, people would still want to experience jewelry when they purchase it.
Yes, people would like to. So there are a lot of video options. There are 3D options for people to try jewelry on. The softwares are very easily available. There are videos that are being made. Anyways, jewelry, like for example, Bluestone, CaratLane, all these companies have been very effectively using online models, and they're selling even high carated engagement rings. From 1 carat to like 3 carats also do happen. So I think that there will be a lot of web space where the designer will directly interact online on Zoom calls with customers. I'm already doing that. WhatsApp, various designs, and I put them up. People, I mean, right now, if I was to check my phone, I have personal queries that are there on what can be made, what cannot be made, and it's a change which has happened, and we are only adapting to that change. So yes, it's moving on, and it's moving on very effectively.
Pallavi, I had a question. As Sumit said that we are going to be moving on to the digital platforms that become a huge part of our lives, and that like the smartphone, it's not just taking our calls and giving us entertainment, it's also monitoring our health. So do you see smart devices coupling with, this is a question for Nishtha and Pallavi possibly, coupling with adornment or wearables and even precious jewelry, where you can have smart devices which become embedded in that, because wellness is one of the huge areas that people are looking at, embedding it in shoes already, like Nike has footwear with embedded technology. So do you see that as a possibility in the future, as smart devices and jewelry and adornment or wearables coming as accessories?
I've in fact, sorry, please.
Sorry.
You'd like to answer? Please go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say yes, definitely it would be there, because the materials that we are seeking now is something that has to be, on the high tech side, where thermoregulating materials are coming in, whether we're talking about sneakers or footwear, any kind of footwear, which again is on a comfort side, that would give us that is comfortable to wear. So this is something one we are looking at. I'm just talking beyond the jewelry side. So
yeah,
I think
of course.
Pallavi would,
in terms of materials,
yeah. So and definitely antibacterial fabric. So I would focus on these two, which is going to be there. And yeah, I mean, in fact, another material which would be there, I mean, which would be focusing is bath leisure. So something to do with merging principles of loungewear and tech, and business and leisure. So I think everything around this would be, I would say, relevant.
Thank you, Nishta.
Yeah, and in the jewelry thing, I mean, one of the projects, Preeta, that I currently worked on was a very interesting technology where, we're using the phone and the earring as a hearing device.
Exactly.
So a lot of, there is a lot of interaction of technology going on forward that I see, and it has been happening since the past 1 year, but now you can see the acceleration in the entire process.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that would be a major trend for the future.
Neja, there's a question from audience, Vijay Lakshmi Singh. She's saying how Indian craft-based luxury products have a future in India and global market. Would you like to comment on this? Should I repeat the question? How Indian craft-based luxury products have a future in India and global market?
I think Indian products could be do have a very good future here, because as we know, Italy, what's happening in Italy, I think people look at India as a manufacturing hub, good skill set, craftsmanship, good craftsmanship. We've got years of history of like handicrafts that we have in India. People look up to that here in Europe. I think that's a big area that India could work on in terms of going forward with luxury. And these are the stories that people can sell here in Europe. People love these type of stories, especially that all the luxury brands are around based on these techniques, special way of doing things, which are very unique to India.
That's wonderful. That's a great insight.
Okay, I just have a question which concerns our students. So after this discussion, there is a question that what kind of, are we seeing at a changing skill set among the students, and what kind of skills do we now need to give to the students as an educational institution? Is there a changing skill set that you people are seeing when you will recruit the newcomers?
May I?
Yeah, please.
Digital marketing should be the part of the curriculum going forward.
Okay.
Yeah, because I tell you what, fashion skill set, you will make them, I know, NIF will produce one of the best, and it's a mecca of when you talk of designing. But the need of the art and digital marketing is not that you need an engineering background. Even a guy who's a 10 pass can understand what digital marketing is all about. It is imperative that we should imbibe digital marketing as a course along with what you guys are teaching at NIFT.
That is also for the design courses or the management course that we run?
No, see, digital marketing is not a management. It's not a management course.
Yeah.
So in NIFT, suppose I'm doing my graduation from NIFT, I'll take 3 to 4 years to become a fashion designer, whatever, a designer, so on and so forth. But when I get into the market, right, somewhere, either I start as an entrepreneur or I start as a professional, right? And today the need of the hour is that you have to be tech savvy. You don't have to write codes, but you should know how to market yourself, and you should be well versed what's happening and how the ecosystem is changing. The entire landscape is changing in terms of sales, supply chains, and everything is getting digitized. So I have to be very close. I should know at the back of my hands. I should not be like looking to stars when it comes to DM, like digital marketing.
Yeah, I agree with Sumit, because digital marketing is the need of the hour. And even simple things like traditional jewelers asking our students to do social media marketing or being savvy on social media and using it, leveraging it for their brands. These things are going to be important, I think.
I want to add something here. What Sumit is saying, another flip side of the trend which is going on is more of, 1:1 buying, people actually going for more of appointment jewelry by product by appointment. Do you think there's a potential in that kind of scenario along with the digital platform?
Sanjeev, please come again. I could not get your question.
So what I was saying that there's another parallel trend which is going on, which is state that if people going and meeting the designer and getting the customized design through appointment. So do you think that it has a potential equal to digital platform?
It has, Sanjeev, I'll tell you what, recently I told you I did some international certification in image consulting and soft skills, right? I had done a NABIT and SQA certifications. Earlier, when I was talking of image consulting, it was about meeting a client one-to-one and change his entire closet, his wardrobe, so on and so forth. Today, I am doing it online. I'm explaining it everything around. The customers are pretty comfortable. And they are comfortable. And this is how the trend is changing. And Sanjeev, to come back, that question is still was hurting me when you asked me what will not change. I wanted to complete, but somehow it got my thought got diverged. See, what does not change is if Sanjeev is a guy who consumes luxury, he will continue to consume luxury. It might contract for a year and a half. Suppose it was 100, it can come down to 70 or 60 level, but he will not stop consuming luxury. The way he was buying luxury will change. The ways, right? So what does not change is your basic. If you are a consumer, average consumer of luxury, you will still consume. But the way you were consuming it will change. I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, indeed.
Thank you, panelists. I would now like to ask Preetha ma'am to sum up the discussion and all the important points because we are exceeding our time limit. Preetha ma'am, over to you.
I think we've had a very, very invigorating discussion, and I don't know if I'll be able to sum up effectively all of them. But the crux of the discussion that we've had is that we are, in a very trying and a challenging time. A lot of brands will be going through, getting layoffs. They'll be going through different kinds of production lines, delayed production lines. They also have stock, as some of you said, to be disposed. So what happens to the consumer? So the consumer, as Sumit rightly just pointed out, the consumer is always going to want the level of product that he was consuming before, but the reasons for those consumption patterns will change. I'll also talk about Pallavi, the way she talked about value-based products. What kind of value do we look for in our products? We have suddenly become more conscious. It's almost that this alone time, it's like nature told us to go and sit in the corner and rethink what we are doing with the world. It's rethinking ourselves. So we went into ourselves. So there is this whole aspect of re-questioning our value systems. So what is it that we are doing? How are we consuming things? Whether we should consume so much. So many of the panelists talked about repurposing products, reloving products, reusing of products. So it's also hand-me-downs and second-hand products which come back into the consumption patterns and are accepted. So the whole aspect of value-based products, looking at craftsmanship, valuing heritage, these are the aspects that we would be looking at. And as consumers, it's the whole concept of value around consumption. It is not mindless consumption which one is going to go into. And yes, the digital is something that we are going to be part of, because it's become a part of our lives, because the distances have been kind of regimented into our lives, and technology is the way that it's going to resolve those differences. So yes, that is something which will become part of retail, which will become part of our experience as well. And I want to thank all the panelists for such interesting and insightful conversations, and my colleagues as well for participating. Thank you. Back to you, Shiza.
Murugan, to address the vote of thanks to our panelists and audience.
Thank you, Shisha. So on behalf of NIFT AD department, I would like to thank the entire panelists, Mr. Sumit Taneja, Ms. Pallavi Phole, Ms. Neerja Jindal, Ms. Deepika Dipti, and Ms. Nista Dudeja, who have spared their valuable time and sharing their experience, insights, and knowledge with us.
The pleasure is ours. The pleasure is ours.
Sorry, sir.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you, Murugan.
Yeah, who have spared. It was a wonderful conversation and meaningful discussion.
Thank you
so much once again.
Thank you, Anna.
Also would like to thank industry members, faculty members, students, and other members of audience. Also on behalf of the department, we would like to give special thanks to our DG sir, Dean NIFT, and our campus director, Director IT, CPAD, Webmaster HO, and Team NIFT. So with this, we would like to conclude today's session. Thank you for joining in. Indoors, stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you all of you for joining in. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone, thank you so much for.
Thank you, Sanju sir. Thank you,
Thanks a lot.
Shweta.
Thank you.